By far, one of my favorite mindful art practices is to make scribble art. It's a really easy art project that can be done in about 10 minutes. If you haven't had a chance to try scribble art yet, this video is meant for you. Because in this video, you will discover all the supplies you need to make gorgeous scribble art. You are going to learn a couple simple tricks for choosing a color scheme that will always turn out. And you'll find a step-by-step guide to the process of making scribble art. Before I get into all of this, I ask that you like this video and subscribe to the channel because these are the best ways for more people like you to find this video. All right, now let's get into all the supplies you're going to need to make scribble art. First, you're going to need some heavy paper. I like to use watercolor paper because it's thick and holds up to the materials you're going to use on it. If you don't have it, you can also use acrylic paper, but I wouldn't recommend cardstock or printer paper. They are just too thin for this type of art. Next, you're going to need some tape. Masking tape that is either 3/4 of an inch or an inch wide works well for taping down the outside of the paper. And then washi tape is great for making a design on your piece. For this scribble art, I put the washi tape down so it made a window pane design. And washi tape comes in different widths. The tape I used here was 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter wide, but you can use any width that you have. You could also use masking tape for this, but the white space between the sections would be wider, so keep that in mind. Personally, I like when the outer taped off frame is about the same width as the washi tape. And I have to tell you that it's so fun to remove the tape when you're done to see how your scribble art turned out. And the white space adds a really lovely element. Third, you're going to need some things to scribble with. Paint sticks are a wonderful choice because they come in a ton of colors and dry quickly, literally about 90 seconds. If you aren't familiar with paint sticks, they are essentially like a glue stick of tempera paint. They kind of look like chubby markers, but are more like a soft crayon to work with. They are marketed to kids, but I have to let you in on a secret. They are so much fun for adults as well. For this project, you're going to need 3 or 4 paint sticks. You're also going to need 1 or 2 markers for scribbling on top of the paint sticks. I used a medium tip marker and a brush tip marker, both in black. I happen to have these pens by Faber-Castell, but Sharpies would work well here too. You could use an ultra fine and a fine tip marker for a similar effect. And feel free to use a color that complements the paint sticks you are using. You don't have to use black, but I did think it popped well here. Whenever possible, I encourage you to get creative and use what you have. You don't have to use everything I mentioned here, and you can definitely swap things out where you need to. Now the big question, how do you select colors that are going to look good together? One of my favorite tricks is to use a monochromatic color scheme, which means all of the colors have a similar hue, such as blue, green, or purple. For this scribble art, I used a light, medium, and dark purple. The other thing you can do to guarantee your color scheme will work is to test your paint sticks on a piece of scrap paper to see how they look before you use them on a bigger project. Now for the step-by-step guide to making scribble art. If you're using a piece of paper that isn't a notebook, I recommend taping the edges of the paper down with masking tape to a piece of poster board to give it a nice edge. You don't have to frame the edges of your paper in tape if you don't want to, but I highly recommend putting the paper on a larger piece of paper or poster board so that you don't get paint sticks and markers on your work surface. Next, apply the washi tape in a window pane design by using 2 pieces of tape to divide the paper into thirds horizontally, and then 2 more pieces of washi tape to divide the paper into thirds vertically. I didn't measure this part, but that would be a good idea if you want to make sure the window panes are even. The rectangles in this piece didn't turn out perfectly even, but I was just doing this for fun and didn't want to track down a ruler to get it perfect. All right, now for the paint sticks. I chose 3 purple paint sticks, like I mentioned, 1 light, 1 medium, and 1 dark. I started with the light and medium paint sticks. I put some light purple scribbles down first, then I added medium purple scribbles. I used the dark purple stick sparingly because I didn't want it to dominate, so you can see that I only went through with the dark purple a couple times, and then I went back to layering light and medium purple on top. I don't worry too much about layering wet paint sticks over each other. I found that generally they clean up pretty easily. Once I was done with the paint sticks, I turned my hairdryer on high speed and hot air to speed up the drying process. You could definitely skip this part and let the paint sticks air dry because it only takes a couple of minutes, but I wanted to make sure that the paint sticks were thoroughly dry. If the paint sticks on the paper are a bit wet, the paint is going to cause issues with the markers that you use next. Next, I scribbled with the markers on top of the paint sticks. With the medium tip marker, I made a little scribble design in each of the window panes. Then, when I used the brush tip marker, I kept it fairly minimal and did pretty much one line around the whole piece. Finally, I carefully removed the washi tape and the masking tape to reveal the finished piece. I love how the colors in this piece work together. The dark purple would have dominated if I had used too much of it, so I'm glad I used it minimally. However, because the colors look so good, I do wish I had found a ruler so I could have been more carefully applying the washi tape. So I will do that next time. All right, there you have it. From start to finish, that whole project took me about 11 minutes to make. So this is not a super time-consuming art project. Now, if you are someone who doesn't feel like you are super creative, I want to remind you that this Scribble art project is more about the process. It's more about working with your hands, seeing how you feel, just spending some time being fully present than it is the final result. If you end up hating what you made, you do not have to keep it for the rest of your life. I give you full permission to throw it away. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I have thrown tons of art away over the years because it was honestly terrible. In the end, it's just more important to notice how you felt during the process and to make note of anything that you would change if you did this again. Because that's how you really learn and grow. That's how you improve your creativity. That's how you improve your art product as well. Thanks so much for being here. If you're looking for more mindful art videos, I recommend that you check out the video that's linked here.